We're seeing the highest level of credit card delinquencies, auto loan defaults, highest level of repossession rates, as you'd imagine, consequently, and the highest level of auto loans that have monthly payments over $1,000. In fact, 1 out of every 5 auto loans out there currently within the US is over $1,000 per month. Hey YouTube, Untamed here. Now I understand a lot of YouTubers like to scream the sky is falling when it comes to the new and used vehicle market. However, they've been screaming that for the last few years. I've only been talking about this recently because I firmly believe that we are going to see a pivot. We're going to see a complete shift when it comes to the new and used vehicle market. Why? Because it has to happen. If you look at all these details, look at the writing on the wall, look at the auction sales, the wholesale figures, inventory figures, the prices of things, how much dealerships need to slash the prices in order to sell inventory right now, and what that ripple effect looks like for the used market, we're going to talk through all those details in today's video, so stick with me. And forgive me in advance, there's 80-mile-per-hour wind gusts out here in Wyoming today, so you're going to be seeing a whole lot of the inside of my house as we talk through this. Now, vehicle inventory levels are alarming right now. Not so much the top figure, we're seeing about 3 million brand new vehicles available within the US right now. Pre-pandemic numbers were about 4 million. That's not the alarming bit, right? The alarming bit is the rate at which we're growing when it comes to new vehicle inventory. So many dealerships are just being over flooded with brand new inventory, with average days on lot teetering toward 90 days across the US. This is the average, right? Obviously, it varies based on the vehicle manufacturer and particular dealership, but on average, we're teetering right toward 90 days on lot. And because of that, we're seeing a tremendous growth rate when it comes to the new vehicle inventory available right now. This time last year, we're about 1.6 million vehicles available throughout the US. Now we're teetering toward 3 million, and they project us to be right about that 4 million figure toward the end of the year here. New vehicles are hitting lots way faster than they're actually selling. Because vehicle inventory is through the roof right now, dealerships are having to get very, very creative to move that inventory. They're having to slash the prices, and they're having to incentivize with excellent interest rates, whether it's 0% interest rates for 72 months or 1.9 interest rate, whatever that looks like, and cutting off $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 or more depending on the particular model to actually sell the unit. So they're having to get pretty creative. And what does that do to used vehicles? That has a ripple effect, a second and third order effect to the used vehicle market, a tremendous effect. So now, from this point forward, we're going to start seeing terrible, terrible trade-in offers. So again, not really helping incentivize people to actually go buy a new vehicle now. You know, it all kind of boils down to supply and demand, right? When there's an abundance of supply and no demand, well, the values of that supply need to come down. And well, if you own a vehicle, there's no demand for that trade-in, right? During the pandemic, trade-ins were extremely high because there were no vehicles on the lot, right? It's the whole supply and demand thing. You're able to get an exceptional trade-in figure because, well, the dealership knew that they could sell that thing in a heartbeat and at a higher interest rate, making them a little bit more money. You know, an interesting bit was so many dealerships ended up paying a tremendous amount for their trade-ins, giving a huge trade-in value when they sold a vehicle, but then we saw the pendulum start swinging downward, right? Because of that, they're really, really stuck on trying to get what they paid for that trade-in. They're trying to get that value back, but they can't. They're not cutting their losses early enough, and what they're seeing now is, you know, they paid $30,000 for your trade-in, and now it's worth $22,000, and they refuse to let it go. And that's a part of that dealership greed that we see across the nation. They refuse to let it go, and they refuse to cut their losses. We see it with auctions right now. In particular, we see so many vehicles just sitting on auction lots. They're going through the auction line, and they're not selling. After the second, third, fourth, and fifth time through the auction line, they're not moving, which ultimately has a huge effect on the wholesale values. Wholesale values ultimately drive the trade-in value that you get when you trade in your vehicle. And the interest rates right now are absolutely a part of the problem. With excellent credit, you're looking at a 7 to 10% interest rate on a new vehicle purchase and up to 15% on a used vehicle purchase. Again, ultimately kicking down the used vehicle market even more. And the Fed has recently announced that we'll likely see these interest rates continue through 2026. Pretty crappy, huh? And let's face it, I mean, everybody is just struggling right now, especially if you're like me and you have 4 kids. It's hard to keep up with everything. Bills keep getting higher, and inflation really has taken its toll on the American population. So if you think about it, I mean, I've mentioned it before, but since 2019, the MSRP costs across the board, all MSRPs on average have gone up 36%, 36% more than what it was just a few years ago. And well, I tell you what, when you combine that with the cost of living, the cost of everything, the cost of groceries, it really is hard to keep up with it all. And what did we just see wrap up? Tax season. That has been the only saving grace for so many dealerships out there, especially smaller mom and pop used vehicle dealerships. People getting that, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 checks back for tax season really allows them the breathing room to go justify a vehicle purchase. However, here at the beginning of April and here forward, that's kind of gone to the wayside. That's old news now. It's really going to start to hurt here in a second. Now, Zillow recently published a report indicating that the average household income needed to live comfortably within a typical house within the U.S. is $106,500. That is up from $59,000 back in 2020. So just a few years ago, it was $59,000. The average income today for an average household is $81,200. That is only up from $66,000 back in 2020. So to be clear, we have seen an 80% increase in the income needed to live comfortably within the U.S., but we've only seen a 23% increase when it comes to the actual income people are earning now. That doesn't add up. In addition to all the additional expenses that have gone up, mortgage, rent, groceries, everything, auto insurance has gone through the roof. Back in 2018, the average annual premium for auto insurance for a household full coverage was just under $1,200. Fast forward just a few years later to 2024 here, we're looking at an average of $2,542. That's according to bank rates and consumer reports. That's insane. So when we see the auto insurance rates go up like that, that is a huge indication of just how expensive vehicles have gotten. We already talked about it going up 36% MSRP since 2019, but holistically speaking, so many vehicle manufacturers just like to pump out top trim vehicles, stuffed to the gills with technology, creature comforts, completely stuffed to the gills, right? And because of that, it jacks up the MSRPs tremendously, like a Ford F-150 Platinum or F-150 FT50 Limited, right? King Ranch, all these top-end trims that we don't necessarily need or don't even really want per se, a lot of us. Because of those $100,000 trucks, when that person crashes it, then the insurance pays out. We all kind of pay into it a little bit. We ultimately all suffer just a little bit when it comes to that. We got a peanut and buggy feature.
Hi.
No. And it clearly is not just the vehicle market, right? I mean, even home sales have come to a screeching halt in many places within the U.S. I mean, I'm kind of living a prime example here. We've priced our home $30,000 below comps and we didn't get a single offer. Man, it is a beautiful home. Maybe not this exact spot. I actually don't know where I am right now. Please send help. And a part of the ripple effect is we're actually seeing vehicle manufacturers begin to lay off employees. We saw it with Stellantis. We see them ending production or cutting production of a number of their lines, like the F-150, Ford F-150 Lightning. We see them cutting production tremendously because, when they arrive to the dealerships, they're actually declining them. They're turning away those allocations because they know that they're not going to sell. And when they don't sell, they end up paying a ton of flooring money for them. Whenever they floor a vehicle and keep it there every month, they're paying interest on having it on their lot. And that adds up over time. And some vehicle manufacturers are actually moving production of their vehicles out of America to get cheaper labor costs. We just saw it with the brand new 2024 Toyota Tacoma, which is now entirely built out of Mexico, where labor cost down there really is pennies on the dollar compared to what it is here in America. The problem with that is they still hiked the price up of that new Tacoma a ton more over the previous generation. So they're paying a lot less to build them, perhaps cheaper quality, debatable, right? But now we're not even seeing a cost savings for the vehicle. That doesn't make sense. So right now we're seeing the highest level of credit card delinquencies, auto loan defaults, highest level of repossession rates, as you'd imagine, consequently, and the highest level of auto loans that have monthly payments over $1,000. In fact, 1 out of every 5 auto loans out there currently within the US is over $1,000 per month. And when you combine that with all the other expenses that we live with day to day, that's unmanageable for most people. So out of all the auto loans that exist currently within the US, the average person owes $6,000 more on that vehicle than what it's currently worth. Meaning if I had a vehicle and I owed $36,000 on it, it's currently worth $30,000. And that is the typical case within the US right now. Obviously, that is a huge piece of the equation why people are not trading in. People are not trading up to a new vehicle right now. They're gonna stick with what they have, otherwise they'd be totally in the hole. We talk about MSRPs going up 36% since 2019. Well, the average cost of groceries across the board has gone up 37% since that same time. So Cox Automotive just held a survey nationwide with dealerships asking what their overall sentiment or feelings were on the current vehicle market. Collectively, the responses were they have the lowest level of confidence since the beginning of the pandemic. So if you remember, at the beginning of the pandemic, a lot of dealerships were a little worried because they thought that it was going to be a huge downward swing for them. Little did they know it would turn into a supply issue, which ultimately benefited them. But overall, their confidence was extremely low at the beginning of the pandemic. And you're actually able to get a really good deal at the beginning of it. So right now, we're seeing the same exact feeling, same exact sentiment from dealerships across the nation. And a part of the rub with me is now all these new vehicles are just overly complicated. They're so complex. We've got these turbocharged, hybridized platforms. The powertrains are just so complicated where we no longer have full confidence of actually performing our own maintenance and work on them and our own services, right? Now we feel like we have to take it into the dealership where they can make more money off of you. In addition to that, we see silly things, BMW's doing it, even Toyota to some degree. They offer you services with subscription fees where you have to pay into monthly in order to get that very normal, very common service that we typically got for free. But everything just feels like a cash grab now. Honestly, the best way to send a signal is to vote with your pocketbook. Don't succumb to the greed. Don't succumb to paying any kind of greedy markup or even these high inflated MSRPs. I mean, you know it when you see it. When you look at a vehicle and you're like, okay, why the heck is this $53,000 when it used to be $30,000 not so long ago? You know, and feel it out. Don't just succumb to it and be like, okay, well, I guess this is what it is now. You can vote with your pocketbook, and if all these vehicles remain on dealership lots and sit there for months on end, something has got to give. And well, that sends a very strong signal to the vehicle manufacturer. Like, well, hey, people aren't even buying our vehicles anymore. We need to drop our MSRP. Something has got to give. I mean, in my honest opinion, let's just call it what it is. I believe that government restrictions and emission standards combined with corporate greed have really torpedoed the American dream for a lot of people. So that is the unfortunate truth. We need to kind of stand our ground a little bit and let this pass over, because we do see some light at the end of the tunnel. We're starting to see these inventory numbers spike up. We're starting to see these dealerships slash prices because they have no other choice. If they want to stay in business, they have to slash their prices. Otherwise, well, they'll go under. And I'm okay if greedy dealerships go under. I think we have one too many of them in the United States. All right, guys, we'll wrap up the video there. Let me know what your thoughts are. I always enjoy reading your comments and seeing what you think on this matter. Really, I think the people are just tired of being taken advantage of at this point. We've got raked over the coals throughout the last few years during the pandemic, and we're just fed up at this point. So I do think something has got to give and is very likely to give before the end of the year. Let me know what your thoughts are. And as always, guys, I sincerely appreciate you taking the time to engage and watch these videos. It is a ton of fun for me to do. If you found any kind of value in it or enjoyed it at all, please consider liking and subscribing. Your support means a lot, and I certainly appreciate it. Until next time.